You will be part of the breakout session of online sexual exploitation of children. I'll be talking in English because we have representatives joining from another country. However, just for some guidelines, may I invite everyone to just bring your chair and let's form a circle here or oblong so that we could see each other's faces. And also, for documentation purposes, we can use the available microphones and freely share and discuss for this breakout session. Thank you. All of the inputs, the challenges and recommendations that we will be sharing will be documented, and hopefully it will be shared to the G20 Summit in India by September. Where are the microphones? All right, thank you. So again, good morning. I am Andy Alegre. I serve as lead for National Church Partnerships at International Justice Mission. IJM is a co-organizer of this regional G20 Interfaith meeting. We have been, receiving inputs from the plenary speakers, but we have been all invited to share and discuss on the issue that is focused for this breakout session, which is online sexual exploitation of children, child protection, child dignity. These issues are interconnected, and you are representing your own organizations, agencies, offices from different sectors. We have representatives from the government, from faith-based organizations, from churches, and different faith tradition. So just some guidelines that we would like to follow. We have allotted more than, I believe, an hour for an hour and a half, if time would permit us. And we all want to share, right? So in sharing, we will allot, at least when you share, less than 5 minutes. But yes, but we have prior invited guests we call discussion launchers to share some insights, reflections, especially on the work that they are doing against online sexual exploitation of children, in aftercare, in rescue, in prosecution. A lot of components in this topic allotted for our breakout session. So once you want to share on this issue, you can just raise your hand, introduce yourself, your organization that you are representing, and share for less than 5 minutes so that we can have time to share. As I've said, we have 4 discussion launchers that had been invited earlier, but we will be sharing based also on the questions, but freely sharing also some of insights and reflections based on what you have heard from the earlier plenary sharing, and based also from what you've heard from this breakout session. So may I welcome and introduce the core contributors from this breakout session. First, I would like to call and introduce Sister Mary Jan Manansan, who is the Executive Director of Institute of Women's Studies at St. Scholastica's College. She is also the chairperson of the Cyber Guardian Philippines. We also have with us Attorney Jedrick Nang, who is the Assistant City Prosecutor of the Interagency Council Against Trafficking. We also have Ms. Opor Sri Suwan, a good friend of mine. She actually just flew in from Thailand. She is the project coordinator for women empowerment and child protection at the International Network of Engaged Buddhists. So sharing about the Buddhist tradition and what she does. And we have also Ms. Fe Foronda, the National Director of the Philippine Children's Ministries Network. She is also an executive committee member of the Philippine Interfaith Movement Against Human Trafficking. So one of the discussion starters question that we have is taking from the religious sector, from church and faith-based organizations. How can the religious actors identify the vulnerable children within their communities and ensure their protection? Before she answers that, taking from the perspective of a religious sector and a religious leader as well, and representing a child focus organization, Cyber Guardian, let me read out the paradigm that we are focusing on, the emerging challenges of online sexual exploited children, child protection, and other components in the protection of children and youth. So children, among the most vulnerable members of society, are increasingly becoming victims of various forms of online sexual exploitation and abuse of children. The spread of OXE or OSEC or OSAEC has been compounded with the increasing access to the internet and of course with the recent COVID-19 pandemic. The consequences of online child sexual abuse and exploitation are profound and long-lasting, based from your work as well, especially in the aftercare sector. Victims can experience severe emotional, psychological, and physical trauma, which may persist into adulthood. The proliferation of explicit materials online perpetuates the victimization of children and increases their vulnerability to further exploitation. Faith-based sectors can play a very significant role in protecting vulnerable children within their communities and also recognizing government agencies that we partner in child protection. So again, for the first question, taking from the religious sector, how can religious actors identify vulnerable children within their communities and ensure their protection?
Okay, I will answer that by saying that it is through the Cyber Guardian Philippines because I am a religious and my vice chair is Father Chodolo Gonzalez of Ateneo. So you must say, well, we are religious and we are doing what we could do with Cyber Guardian Philippines. I would like to say something what Cyber Guardian Philippines is doing. Okay, we have four stages: capacity building, prevention, healing, and integration, reintegration. These are the four main. Of course, we are now only on prevention. That means a lot of education. And we have adopted Duterte's one nation approach, no? He's doing that against communism. Now we are doing this against OSAIC, you know? That means to say that we are going to the government, national government, like the CCCIC is with us, the Cybercrime Investigation Committee, they are helping us. And also, of course, the local governments. We already have a MOA with Vico Soto of Pasig. And we are going to do it also with Cayetano, what do you call this, in Taguig. And then Quezon City, we have chosen 4 hotspots. There are 10 hotspots in the Philippines, well, including Pampanga. And what do? We are asking them to help us, not only to surveillance, because there are no brothels, they are just houses. So the local government, it's very important for them to go around and see where these things are happening. No? So that is one. And of course, we have, what do you call this, the church. We have contact with the CBCP Commission on Church Protection. And of course, we are urging all parishes, to be vigilant because even the perpetrators are their parishioners, they are going to church, etc., etc. And of course, schools. My own school, we have an association of Benedictine school, and the Maris, they have actually all the Asian province of the Maris brothers are already very active in combating OSAIC. And of course, also mandated organization like CWL. CWL, they have 50,000 members, and they have Catholic Women's League. They have a chapter in all parishes in the Philippines. So, and they are almost all mothers. So we think that they are very important in this regard. And of course, we have to do a lot of media. We have, for example, TV Maria. And then we have now talked with Sonia Soto of Pampanga. So all the media, and also we took part in the ASEAN cybersecurity seminar. We sent 40 volunteers, and these 40 volunteers have cascaded all what they have learned about cybersecurity for each one of them, also 40 people. So you can see about 2,000 are already already knowledgeable about cyber security. And of course, families, parents, associations of schools, they have to know all about this. Also, we want to mobilize guidance counselors because they are supposed to be the ones who are going to help these people, no? But as I said, the prevention part of our work is what is taking most of our time now. So we go to the different organizations and different local governments so that we can explain to them what this is all about. And I have here, Gino, we have a youth sector. And that is very important because the youth is the one, they are the ones affected. And they're very, very active. Actually, the Cyber Guardian Philippines, we are zeroing in OSAIC, but our youth sector does also cyberbullying and fake news, etc. So they are fighting against all this. And we have had already 2 youth summits, 2 days, and they have what they call cyber kwentuhan. I mean, they give their own stories, etc., etc. I am already out of minutes. But anyway, these are some of the things that we are doing. And I wish I could tell you more afterwards. And I maybe
issues that are valuable to us, especially from the religious and faith-based sector, recognizing government agencies, especially the local government. I would like to point out earlier what Attorney Noel has discussed about emerging and the challenge and even recommendation of prevention, which Sister Mary John mentioned, prevention and awareness for children. But we also want to hear from our partners from the government. Perhaps IACAT can share more about the work that they are doing in collaboration also with other partners on child protection, especially on this issue of OSEC or OSAIC. Can I invite Attorney Jed? Where's the mic?
A lot of our programs. So basically, again, to summarize, of course, there are what we call a 4Ps approach, right? There's the prevention, of course, prosecution, then, of course, partnership, especially so with our community and other NGO partners. And then, of course, protection to the victims that were rescued. So on my part, what we do focus on is the prosecution aspect, which is the case work. No? Of course, we want these perpetrators to be brought to justice, and if they're found to have committed these crimes, no, they should be punished for such. No? So what is important here, maybe I could zero in on this aspect on prosecution, is that lately there have been convictions that were laid down by our courts, no, against these perpetrators, especially on child sexual abuse and exploitation online. No? And also in cases of trafficking, there has been Supreme Court decisions that already upheld guilty verdict for those who have abuse children when it comes to using computers, even if it's their own family who are the perpetrators. The harsh penalties were implemented. No? So there's these cases that has prospered already. So I think what is important to note together with the interfaith community is that cases do take time. No? I think it's a journey for a survivor. Okay, it will not happen instantly, as we know. It will take quite a long process because of various reasons that could be attributed to maybe court dockets, lack of judges, etc., and so forth. No? But the thing is that these survivors need to be supported during this journey in their court case to be able to testify in court and then have this sense of justice. No? That's to be that they were able to relay their story to the court and then, of course, later on attain justice, no, in their favor. So it will take a while, and this is, I think, where the interfaith community would come in. It would be important that these survivors would be given spiritual guidance, support, emotional, moral, and all these sort of support to sustain them in this in pursuing their cases. Because that, I think, is vital. Kasi if that is not given or provided, sometimes cases would fall if the survivor would not be able to tell their story in court. No? And that would cause, that's really something that would be very negative and would likewise lead to an acquittal of the accused. No? So it's important to support the survivor. No? And I've seen cases that succeed because these survivors were given this adequate support from NGOs, from the church. I think their family, the survivor themselves or their families were able to receive such spiritual or moral support from the community and the church environment. So at this limited time, I think that's a thing that I can share at the moment. And of course, partnership is vital as well, no? For the community, the interfaith community and the government. No? As I realize that the interfaith community, the churches, are like sort of the eyes and ears in the community, and they know what's happening. And that is very important because especially in the Department of Justice, cases should come to us, no? Should be initiated, all right? So there must be people who should file the complaints. No? We cannot just, on our role as the Department of Justice prosecutors, we cannot just file the case on our own. No? We really need people to come forward, victims to come forward and file the complaint so that the criminal justice process could begin. And hopefully later it will lead to the punishment of the perpetrator. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Cedric Nang, for those insightful sharing that you have about the prosecution for these cases and reminding us that cases do take time, right? You mentioned also about, the role of interfaith or the faith-based sectors as well in the prevention efforts. May I turn to Ms. Fe Foronda?
Good morning, everyone. I represent here two bodies, Philippine Interfaith Movement Against Human Trafficking. It's a partnership and collaboration among the three councils of churches in the Philippines, including CBCP, NCCP, and the evangelicals. So we have been working at the level whereby we equip ourselves on the issue that is raging now, especially the ones on anti-OSAEC. And so we also work with the ministerial association and the district and the parishes so that they would have the right information on what is this crime called OSAEC and how it happens. What are the red flags that they should be able to see among their parishioners or even among children that they come in contact with in terms of OSAEC. So we are mostly based in the NCR, but we have now coming a conference in Davao, which would be including the Muslim also and the Lumat. So we want this issue broadcasted to the many church people as possible. As representing Philippine Children Ministries Network, we're doing the education of two important stakeholders. One would be the local government, especially the barangay. We work with Barangay Council for the Protection of Children, VAUSI, DES. We work with bodies that are present in the barangay that would need to respond to the issue of OSAEC. We also work with the Department of Education because the children are with the teachers most of the day, especially now that it's face-to-face. So we partner with the SDO, they call it SDO, the superintendent in particular city, especially in the cities of Antipolo, Dasmariñas, Davao, and the two summer provinces. So we sign with them, we partner with them through an instrument whereby we train their teachers and also their principals and guidance counselor on this issue called OSA. Especially now that we have the new law with the new IRR, it is important that stakeholders, those who are mandated to protect children, should be able to know this law called the Anti-OSAIC law. So how do we identify among the ranks of families and also vulnerable communities? So what we do is do a research or mapping on which particular city have the potential to be a hub or a hotspot, or currently is already a hotspot. And we work with the local government, the city government, and also the barangay. And we work with them in identifying children by strengthening the referral system, because there would be no reports if people do not know what to report on and where to report to. So we also work with youth. We have a national youth for safety advocates. Their main role, and they embrace this issue of anti-OSAIC. So they organize themselves per cluster and also at the national level. So I think those are the ones that I could share.
Thank you, Ms. Fe, for sharing those work that you are doing. You mentioned about prevention. Perhaps it was mentioned earlier that we see Philippines as a model, no, of responses on the 5 topics. There had been a lot of milestones, like Ms. Fe mentioned about the anti-OSAIC law. That's another milestone for us advocates, no, on child protection. But we also want to hear reflections and insights from Thailand, and that's why I want to hear insights on child protection, on the work of the International Network of Engaged Buddhists, sharing more about what they do also from a different faith tradition, from the Buddhist tradition. Opor, please.
Mabuhay. It's like a homecoming. I graduated from Antaneo 5 years ago. So yeah, when you speak about Father Joseph, I recall his first day when he told us to give an orientation that to be a peace builder is take a brave heart. I didn't know what brave heart was at that time, but now I'm still discovering. So anyway, I'm representing the Buddhist perspective, especially in Southeast Asia and South Asia, where we work with the religious leader. So we have to admit that in the Buddhist institution, we have been passive in our action. You might not see as many Buddhist perspective in an international level giving the input or the recommendations, because yes, we have been waiting we have been waiting and we have been working in the temple. We didn't walk out in the temple. It's actually that we have to be more socially engaged with the issue. That's what the Buddha Lord was trying to do. I think, in my view, he was somewhat the advocate in his time in 2,500 years ago when he became an ordained, which give a message to his father and his society in India that he do not support the system of caste anymore, so everyone should be equal. That was the message, but somehow that throughout the year somewhat misinterpreted. So I'm just speaking on my understanding here. I have no mean to attack, but I have seen that in the sense the Buddhist leaders have been working really well in providing the basic need and the humanitarians. As you may know that right now is the situation in Myanmar. So those our neighbors are now fleeing into the border, and where they're seeking for support is temple. So yes, we are doing good. But as Sister mentioned about the prevention and protection, I add the protection part. We still have to work on this. And actually, have you ever seen that in maybe a movie or where the monk will be holding the arm and walk around in the morning, very early in the morning. I lost the word in English, but the arm bowl. So that's when they get to know the situation in the community in the micro level, right? So he will be asking, the monk will be walking, and because my home is next to the temple, so I overheard all the conversation. So the monk will be asking the villager that, oh, where is your child? Oh, she's now went to the city and work in the city. Oh, where is another one that just came out from jail? How is he doing? So all this work and casual conversation, but we need to build a platform where this information can be taken into the consideration, and with many small voices can be big, and that is and the government can really have no say, because that is the fact that we are providing through the religious practice in daily life, and the voice of local. So yeah.
Thank you. You shared insights about the role of religion, especially from the Buddhist perspective. You mentioned also prevention and protection as, the call to really protect vulnerable populations, and I think even victims, as shared also by some of the survivors. So may I just call those who are, from the aftercare side of NGO providing support to survivors, right? Or even newly rescued survivors. May I ask to share your role from the faith perspective? How do you support victims? How do you support survivors? Anyone? Who's your name, your organization? Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I am Jasmine Wen from Generations Home, also known as Rohe Foundation. So we're a nonprofit organization based here in Manila. And our mission is to end the orphan crisis at large. So that includes vulnerable children, rescued children, through families. So really our response is to say that family is the answer, whether that's their own biological family or families in the form of adoptive or foster families, which is, of course, our form of aftercare or alternative care for the rescued children. And so how this relates to the online sexual exploitation of children or the sexual exploitation and abuse of children would be to prepare families and equip families to welcome these rescued children on a family level instead of institutional care. Because we believe that deinstitutionalizing the response for these children is really the best response, because through families they're able to reestablish the trust that was lost. Since we heard earlier this morning that a lot of these perpetrators are actually from within the family, within their own community, within their neighborhood. And at a young age, if that trust has been lost, then it is up to new families, perhaps through the form of foster families or adoptive families, to reestablish that trust within that child. And how we invite our faith-based partners or religious actors, churches here in our community, is really to tap into their network of families. And, we go around churches here in Metro Manila and even outside to hold forums on the practical steps and kind of draw the connections between their faith, between what they stand for, and draw that to be connected to social action in the form of being licensed as foster parents, for example, or for families who, are perhaps praying to be, to have another member of the family or to have a child, to consider adoption or consider foster care as another form of building their family. And it's not, a second option or a plan B for their family. And that's our advocacy. And we've seen the result of this in the 5 years of existence of the organization. We've seen hundreds of families say yes to this. And so our next step now is to really equip them some more in this area of OSEC as a response to respond to the trauma of the children, to be equipped with principles like trust-based relational intervention or TBRI, trauma-informed care, so that the safe spaces that that faith-based organizations organizations and communities say that they are, will really be seen and will be felt by the children in need in the form of families.
And the idea behind the Safe House is, first of all, safety, and second of all, healing. So, and it's all for girls, so that when the girls are referred, they can experience safety where they learn to trust again, and they can learn the tools of healing that they'll use throughout the rest of their lives. We've seen a lot of the breakdown of family in a lot of different ways that contributes to it. And so we definitely believe that the family unit is a core contributor to making this change that needs to happen. Most of our girls who come in, it's because their mothers have died and they were not protected, or their mothers left to work abroad. And when they were abroad, their children were not protected. We see the role of mother as extremely strong, and obviously the role of father as protectors for these children. The reintegration is twofold. One, into a safe family, and second is into a safe community. So we help connect them to a local church nearby, where they can get to know leaders and friends of other people who hold high standards and are able to help them continue their healing process.
Thank you. I think that's important, especially in supporting survivors, connecting them, well, focusing as well on families and connecting them with communities for reintegration. So now I may turn to Pastor Stephen, Reverend Stephen, or Pastor Bong.
My name is Stephen Gilberto with the Church of the Nazarene, and at the same time Shechem Children's Home. And Shechem Children's Home is a very young organization. It's only like 4 years in existence. And the work of Shechem Children's Home is an assessment center specifically for children who survived and was rescued from online sexual exploitation. And basically what we are doing at Shechem is that we are providing the immediate intervention and assessment, which includes trauma care and all those kinds of intervention that needed by the children who just freshly rescued from online sexual exploitation. And because we are also a church, and this is part of the Church of the Nazarene, one of the major component of the work of Shechem is to provide the spiritual nurturing and care for the children, and also integrate, mobilizing and engaging our local churches to care for these children, and also to advocate to their immediate communities the evils of online sexual exploitation. There are a lot of issues that is happening, especially among those children who survived and rescued. And one of the work also that we are doing, just like what the organization that Jasmine and Julie represented, is that we also find ways for these children to be reintegrated to their families, if their families, or if there are members of the families that can be trusted. So we have also social workers that work alongside with the family and the community to prepare for the children to be reintegrated back to the family. And we believe also that the family is the best unit to care for the children. And worst scenario, if there are no trusted families, then we look for other alternative, which is also foster care or institutional care. But institutional care is also our last option, because we do believe also that the family is the best. The family atmosphere or environment is the best way to care for the children.
Thank you, Reverend Stephen. What you have mentioned are best practices. I think that's certainly a model that we can bank on from the Philippine perspective. Earlier, from the aftercare services, from foster care, like for example, trauma care, family strengthening that you have mentioned, as well as reintegration, community-based reintegration. I would like to open the floor if anyone wants to add on those best practices that you would like. Albert, please.
I'm Albert Muyot. I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer of Save the Children Philippines. And I am really so impressed with everything that each of us in our organizations are already doing, focusing mainly on investigation and prosecution, okay, and survivor care. But I want to make a special pitch for prevention, because when we talk of investigation and prosecution, we talk of survivor care. The injury to the child has already been inflicted, and we are just trying to remediate the injury. And sometimes the process itself of investigation and prosecution, and sometimes even survivor care, exacerbates the injury already caused to the child. So the child has been traumatized, is in effect re-traumatized as the child goes through the process. We have laws, but our laws focus more on the legal and the judicial aspects of this issue. And I must admit that I'm partially guilty of that, having worked with UNICEF before, more than 20 years ago, where really my focus was on the legal and judicial protection of children. Now I realize that sometimes our tendency to just focus on certain aspects misses the forest for the few trees that can still be planted. In the 2016 baseline survey on violence against children, okay, there were three areas where violence was most prevalent. The community, and we know that the Philippines is a very violent society. Second, the school. And that's why when I was in the Department of Education, the first thing I did was really push for a child protection policy for the whole basic education system. The baseline study showed that more than 70% of children in school have been faced with some form of violence, mostly psychological, physical, and even sexual. But the greatest violence is actually committed in the home by the very persons who are supposed to care for children. And when you have violence in the home, violence in the schools, and violence in the community, OSAEC and other forms of violence against children, it's just basically the result of all of this. While we talk of the child, it's very important for us, and I really echo what you said earlier, that we focus on the family and strengthen the family, and also work with all of the different actors in the community in order to prevent all of this from happening. Otherwise, we'll just be so focused on the number of cases that have been successfully prosecuted. And what are being investigated and prosecuted is not even 1/1000th of the actual number of cases of violence against children that are being committed. When I was in DepEd, my realization was that if there were 20,000 cases of violence against children reported in 1 year, there must be 10 times that number. Because so many forms of violence we tend to ignore, and sometimes we even use it to justify the exercise of authority by the parents, the exercise of authority by the teachers, the exercise of authority by the caregivers and the guardians. So I would really make that appeal that while we do want to focus on what's provided for by law, let's take a look at what is not provided for by law. And this is actually the greatest need. And if we can get everyone together, especially the faith-based organizations, which are really there in terms of strengthening the values at the family level, then I think that we can prevent many children from actually becoming victims who have to go through the legal and the judicial system, and who would need survivor care later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Albert, for saying that. I think you mentioned, Nag-time pa na. Mentioned about strengthening, especially the role of faith-based organizations in family value strengthening. No, you mentioned about schools also in violence. We have a representative from the school. I think I would call you attorney.
Well, we worked with Mylen in
Okay.
coming up with the child protection.
Yes. So
Hello, good morning. I'm Attorney Mylan Gonzalez Esquivel. So I'm the Executive Director of Child Rights Advocacy Center of Miriam College. It's a new center established by Miriam College, and we work with Attorney Moyot for the establishment of the center because the Save the Children assisted us in establishing the center. Well, technically, Child Rights Advocacy Center focuses more on prevention, like teaching our kids what are the different forms of abuse and exploitation and how we can prevent that. So we actually we have 4 areas of involvement. One is on policy. So currently, CRAC is working with the Council for the Welfare of Children with respect to the development of the research consortium. So the research consortium will be focusing on gathering data on child violence against children. So we are one with that. And we also encourage our students to join committee hearings pertaining to laws or pertaining to bills that protects children. So we would like our kids to learn the different laws, the different bills while they become a law. We also have our training for our homeroom class advisors and guidance counselors on trauma-informed care. So for example, we teach them how to detect signs of abuse among our kids, our children in the basic education. And if they detect red flags, what are they supposed to do? How can they handle this? So we are coming up with a protocol. Our office is developing a protocol on managing cases of abuse that happens at the home. Like what Attorney Muyot said a while ago, it's really sad that abuse really happens at home. At Miriam College, we have mechanisms already if the abuse happens inside the school. But we don't have a protocol on how to manage these cases if the abuse happens at the home. So we are now developing a protocol which also include a referral system like what Ms. Fe said a while ago. It's very important to have that. Also we have our advocacy and partnership. So we have now a partnership with Council for the Welfare of Children. So we have a partnership on the Makabata helpline. So we inform our kids that there's a helpline which they can call, and there are people who will be able to help them. So we have a co-branded posters with CWC, and all of these co-branded posters are posted in our campuses, from the elementary to the middle school and of course to the high school, because we would like the kids to know that if one of your friends or if one of your cousins or relatives are showing signs of being abused or being neglected or exploited, they can actually they can call a helpline, and that's the Makabata helpline. And also we are also coming up with a project in integrating child protection and promotion in our curriculum. So we would like our teachers to teach what are the different forms of child abuse, how we can prevent that, how to detect that. And of course, we are also pushing for teaching the kids the sense of responsibility for others, because we would like them to understand that they have also the responsibility to help those kids who are also prone to being victimized by OSAEC, CSIM, and other forms of child sexual abuse. So we had a training already on OSAEC for our parents, faculty members, and some of our kids. And we did that together with the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group. So we partner with different institutions so that we will be able to raise the awareness and consciousness of our kids. Because we believe that if they are aware, they'll be able to also inform other kids within their community. That's all. Thank you.
thank you, Attorney Maylene. I think that's something that we really want to amplify in terms of partnership and awareness raising of children about this issue.
I wasn't able to expound on this morning because due to lack of time, but one of the things that I really wanted to say is that in online sexual exploitation of children, there's a party that enables the crime to happen who has not done enough. And I'm talking about the tech companies that are in the middle. No? Because CSAM passes through them, it's exchanged through them. And through the years, there are two impulses that there's a battle between two mindsets, no, two ideologies from the tech companies. One is data privacy, the other one is protection of children. Because, for example, a case is Apple. Apple, I think 2 years back, had a plan of enabling a program that would immediately detect CSAM in the system of iPhones and also in their iCloud, in their platform. But that didn't happen because of criticisms from data privacy, that they're saying that people should have privacy, Apple shouldn't have the right to see what they are exchanging in their platform. And to me personally, I don't agree with that because I draw the line when it's already abusing children. So privacy shouldn't prevent tech companies shouldn't be able to hide behind privacy considerations when it comes to protecting children, especially when it is already talking about the abuse that is happening to the children. So to me personally, that's where I draw the line. And I think this summit, the G20 Summit, is a good platform for all faiths, to band together and to have a statement to the tech companies that, draw the line in protecting children. Because I think it's not an argument. Data privacy is not an argument when it comes to protecting children because they're hiding behind data privacy and perpetrators are hiding behind the idea of data privacy. And it makes the illegal act that they're doing, hidden because of issues of data privacy, which I think should not happen. So I think I would like to advocate that would be recommended during the G20 Summit, that Interfaith would band together for that issue.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andy.
Thank you, Attorney Well. That's a concrete recommendation that you have shared with us. So thank you for saying that. Indeed, a lot of stakeholders, especially tech companies, could also play an important role, in the protection of children, especially that abuse and exploitation is now online.
Yeah, for example, in our new law in OSAEC, there is a provision there that tech companies should be able to monitor the live streaming that is happening. Because in OSAEC, there are a number of OSAEC cases that are being streamed. So there's no exchange of images, but the sexual abuse material is being streamed. So in our law, it's there, but there is a resistance from our tech companies because they say it's going to entail more costs for them. It's going to be right to privacy again. So, but it's in our law. But I think there is an opportunity there for us, especially that we belong to different faiths to really band together and have one voice against that issue and to advocate for that. Yes, Pastor Bong.
Thank you. Some people are raising their hand in response to that. Pastor Bong, Sister Mary Jan Manansan, Pastor Jackson. So we'll go first with Pastor Bong and then Sister Mary and Pastor Jack.
I agree with Attorney Noel because prior to COVID-19, I had the privilege to join a forum in the Vatican wherein a lot of these tech companies are also present, including Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon's, those big players. And that's what they are actually saying. And because of the Privacy Act, that they cannot just disclose people. Well, I think it's more than just a Privacy Act. I think this is also a business and propelled by money, Well, basically, when Microsoft was asked for a comment, the representative said that if we're going to stop all of this, we have to shut down the system, and we are in the point of no return. So I think we need to hold those businesses, responsible and accountable to what is going on. And I think the problem of OSAIC is more than just economy. It's multifaceted. It's holistic. And I agree with Sir Albert na the solution must also be holistic. And we need to look at the different facets of this OSAIC. In fact, on my way back to the Philippines kanina umaga, wala lang ako magawa sa aeroplano. I'm bored. So I redescribed for my own what OSAIC is. And I love to play words. And I said, and I wrote this, predators perpetrate pernicious practices, a lot of peace. Practices through platforms propelled by poverty, perversion, permissiveness, prejudice, and powerlessness. So all of this, all peace. So poverty is economy, perversion is moral and spiritual, permissiveness is structural, and family structure there is a breakdown of family structure. Prejudice is also cultural. And because of the shame culture, especially in the Southeast Asia context, the Asian context, the culture of shame, na ayaw nating sabihin, ay nahiya tayo, we're so ashamed that this is happening to us. And powerlessness, and I think this is psychosocial and even emotional powerlessness that is happening in our society.
Thank you, Pastor Bong. We go now to Sister Mary Jan for some insights.
Yeah, I would like to make a very concrete suggestion. Can you make this statement already, and then we will all sign? Because sometimes there are very good suggestions. We will do it, we'll do it, and nobody does it. But it's a very good thing that you want to do, and this is an opportunity.
Right.
So I would suggest you draft the statement already, and we will all sign. Yeah, right now. I mean, before we end this. Yeah, I mean, please draft it. Otherwise, it will be lost in oblivion. Even it's very good, because nobody will make the statement. Nobody can go around to make it. Here we are all here, and you are there. So make the draft statement, and we will sign. Okay?
Can you do that now, Attorney Noel? Can I just pass the mic to Pastor Jack? Yeah.
Ito, Senator Jedrek. Okay? It's not enough that we make the statement. We must challenge the DOJ to actually enforce the provisions. The provisions have been there since Republic Act 9775. Many years ago. Hindi lang po na-enforce. It hasn't been enforced. And there's been no case actually against the ISPs at saka yung mga ibang technology providers. So, even if you do make a statement, but kung gusto yung mag-prosecute, ito yung prosecute ninyo. Di ba? Okay, because the impact of any investigation or prosecution in this regard will actually be bigger in preventing the actual victimization of individual children. Yan.
Thank you, Sir Albert.
Church of the Nazarene, at the same time, the director also of Gitong Community Development and part of PSEMEN with Ate Fe. One thing that I also observe in this discussion is the church should be the center of safety. I'm a pastor. A lot of us here are working in the church. And there are so many child workers in the churches or the religious sectors that we have. And we see also, as I go around, as Holistic Child Development Ministries National Coordinator of the Church of the Nazarene in some part of the churches that we are handling right now, I have seen that a lot of pastors and leaders and child workers are not aware of what we're discussing here about the laws, referral mechanisms. And we've been discussing that in our network in FEMAT. And we are not exempted to the evangelical churches are exempted. The Church of the Nazarene. But as I go around, we created this best practice that we do, that all pastors should sign the child protection policy. Second, all child workers, we have Sunday schools. And you know what? That abuses and violence also happen in the Sunday school classrooms. And even the communities where the churches are. But the pastors, if there are some abuses that happen, even OSEC, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to report. If they report, they said, I will not report because my church will be affected. and my church will close. How's the tithes? How's the offering? How's my livelihood? So these are things that we also see, and then I think one of the best practices that some churches and the church in us is doing is to really raise and increase the awareness and capacity building with regards to these child protection policies and the laws that we have, and bring them to the grassroots. There are a lot of churches already doing that, but there is actually the need is just so wide in the grassroots for the local churches. There are so many independent churches. There's so many local churches in the far-flung areas and even in the cities. Yeah, we are discussing this, but some, they don't even care. It's not their priority. It's not a priority. So it's a call. It's a call for us as a pastor, as we see it, that I think there's something that we need to do. I think we have a project right now with PSM in the network in Rizal, that we will bring the child protection policy to churches and to let them sign, to work hand in hand with the local government unit. I think that's one thing that we can also work on.
Thank you, Pastor Jack. Is it related, Pastor Bong, to what Pastor Jack has mentioned? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
and
give the
I
floor.
think I agree with Pastor Jack, and that is also a challenge in our denomination. But let me just move one step backward. Perhaps we need also to involve the Bible colleges and the seminaries in this issue, because that's where the training ground happens. And how I wish that even the Commission on Higher Education is also present and represented here at the Department of Education, because the educational institutions, as we have said, and I'm glad that we have some representatives from the schools here, but how I wish that we have also some colleges who are really advocate and making sure that this is part of the curriculum that they have, and when they send the students, and I think not only the churches, but even all facets of the society, even the businesses, kahit yung mga businesses when it comes to network like Smart or whatever, because they are also network providers and part of the issue and also the solution.
Thank you, Pastor Bong, for highlighting those. Now, may I...
The topic have been taken so far away from where I was waiting for. So I just like to give an example of I forgot the name.
Well?
Yes. So now these days that the activities of sexual exploitation and abuse happen online, and through my work experience with the children who've been using that platform, with they have been groomed. So what happened is that they use their gaming platform to exchange and to so they no direct transactions, but there they install the money in exchange of their naked picture, and then they circulate that in the group of one platform that they have not agreed for us to work in it. On the other hand, Facebook and Twitter are really good at taking an actions. So at our foundations, my previous foundations have the privilege to have the direct report to the Facebook in Singapore to take down and to work with that. That's where it's come to the partnership. So those local organizations working with the tech company and come back, those information come back to the police department, and where the Thai government have founded the Thai CAC. Let me read this. Because I think it's very interesting, and I have a privilege to be in the training team for the first batch of the police 2 years ago. So this one is the Cybercrime Investigation Bureau, and under it there is a Thai CAC, Thailand Internet Crime Against Children. And when I'm talking about children here, and if you look carefully into the statistic, more boys are being a victim, and we are now to see the essential that looking into the gender diversity as well, the LGBTQI communities are being a victim 4 times more than those children. So, and once when it comes to the religious and faith institutions, we are somehow that keeping them out from our, excluding them. So we have to accept that. So that's why they are seeking their self-esteem somewhere else online, where the perpetrators are accepting them at who they are. So when we talk about this and think about our target group and our children, include them too.
Thank you. Thank you, Opar. I was just reminded that we have limited time, so I'll give less than 5 minutes. Others weren't able to speak pa. Can I just call Sister Evelyn and then Sir Saladin and Miss Fe, and then we can have others a little bit of time to share.
Yeah, Sister Evelyn I'm representing Talita Kum Philippines, and I would just like to follow what Mr. Albert and you see after this COVID-19 or this pandemic, we notice really the increase of the percentage of the victims of OSAIC, no? And so we would like, our network would like to really to focus first on the OSAIC, on prevention. And actually, with the private schools, we have not much problem. I'm happy about Miriam College. And we are trying to work on the public schools. Actually, we are working on a module about OSAIC, and we presented it already on the CHED, and we were told to review it and to really improve it, no? So, because, we cannot easily enter public schools. With the private schools, we just talk with the superior or with the principal, and we can, and it's really, we are trying also to encourage these private schools to put it in their curriculum, no? And hopefully, and we are really hoping that this year we can really work on the module on a side. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Evelyn. I think that's another recommendation to really incorporate the module, especially targeting public schools, which have been mentioned as a challenge. No, I would like to give the floor to Sir Saladin.
I would like to take this opportunity and thank you for inviting us here. Since we are invited here, of course, we do believe that somehow we could contribute, or we could somehow say something about how our religion says so with regards to the protection of children, especially in the Philippines. We are minority. So, by the way, I am a Sharia lawyer. I am a Juris Doctor graduate from the Mindanao State University. So I was supposed to give a sermon in the Fatima for the medical students association, Muslim medical students. So, and my perspective is about a little bit of comparative, no. I just would like to compare on after listening all of this. Important sharing of ideas. I believe that somehow we could also give a little bit contribution on how the Islam view on the protection of children, especially nowadays that the main problem is because of the evolution of the internet system. So in Islamic perspective, we protect children before birth, after birth, and during birth. No, I say before birth because we acknowledge that a legal marriage should be between a man and a woman, and we acknowledge that they should be in accordance with Islamic rights. So, yung bata kapag pinanganak siya, may protection na siya because we don't allow adoption, because we don't Islamic point of view does not confer the rights of the legitimate children, the rights of the legitimate children should not be acquired by a adopted children. So
Sorry, sir, to disrupt you. Can you wrap up your point in terms of recommendation or a challenge?
yeah. Okay. So my recommendation is I agree that since we are here in the Philippine sana doon din sa mga areas kung saan may mga Muslim dominated schools or cities ma-incorporate din sa kanila na meron din sanang prospectus doon sa subject on the basic learning of Islamic point of view. Kasi like sa MSU, sa Mindanao State University, meron po kaming Sharia 1 na subject, meron po kaming Sharia 2, Sharia 3, Sharia 4, kung saan yung pinaka-basic na malaman ng bata doon sa kanyang pag-aaral para magamit niya paglaki niya is natututunan niya doon sa basic education. So aside from that, ang gusto ko rin sanang i-recommend is sana magkaroon ng proper forum kung saan ang mga kabataan mabisita natin na malaman nila na itong internet ngayon is against sa tinuturo ng sa ating religion somehow on a very strict sense, kasi mga bata kami na walang internet, so nakita ko talaga yung distinction niya ngayong may internet doon sa mga nung time namin na walang internet tsaka ngayon na may internet, kasi sa amin talaga nung time, wala talagang napakaliit yung mga abuses, napakaliit yung mga cases kung saan...
Sir, sorry, I have to stop you there. You have two recommendations, which is one is to include in the curriculum child protection in Muslim areas where there's limited internet, but also increase awareness on this issue to know about, to protect themselves. Tama po ba? Thank you. Now, we only have, actually the others have finished already, but I'll give another, can I give first the floor to you from She Works?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Chris. I'm with Marlene and Malu from She Works, and we are a nonprofit, and we are faith-based, and I want to affirm what each one has said because we believe that we have learned from you. And She Works focuses on helping and ministering to women survivors of trafficking and prostitution. And since the uprising of the OSEC, it has been our vision to train our women leaders who have been survivors to be advocates themselves. And now that we are in partnership with One Child, a sponsorship program for kids in hard places, they give us slots for scholarship. So we have 70 children right now, and 40 of them are teenagers. And we dreamt of training the kids to be advocates. So, and I would like to acknowledge PCMN because we really learned from the OSEC modules, and also the partners who are also on the prevention program because we focus on the prevention. And now we have more than 20 of our preteens who are hosting, training in hosting, and we are going to launch a simple OSEC awareness program wherein they could invite their friends, a friend or two, to come to advocate. So we will just facilitate a few, but most of the facilitators are kids. And I was dreaming, parang kinikilig po ako when I heard of the educational system and also in the churches, no po. If there could be a group of youngsters, a committee, where they would be the facilitators or they would be the ones to invite, I think it will be effective because they know the language. So I just want to share because I'm glad and I'm grateful that our women survivors some of them have been trained, and the parents as well of these kids, and now the kids are going to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Amazing work that you are doing. Let me just give the floor to Ms. Faye and Attorney Mylene and Gino. Okay.
Very short.
So very short, please.
2 points. One would be, I would like to pick on what was said in the plenary, to demand more actions from the G20 countries, because we may forget that. Because we are recipients of the crime, we are the ones suffering, but the perpetrators, the real perpetrators, are coming from other countries, especially the outside.
Thank
So
you.
we demand one. And the second one would be very local. PCMN will launch a program called Faith-Based Action Against OSAEC. It will do that. It would be participated by the churches. But also, going back to the importance of strengthening the families against OSAEC, we're now doing one organizing of women, which would become a platform for anti-OSAEC education. Organizing them for economic activity like savings mobilization, but that is a platform for advocacy.
Thank you, Ms. Fe. Now, two recommendations that Attorney Mylene would want to highlight. Thank you.
I'm also a litigator and a social worker, so my recommendation would be based on litigation and practice of social work. First is, I think there's a need to return the old system that we have a prosecutors who are gender and child friendly, so that the kids would not be threatened and traumatized while undergoing the preliminary investigation and the prosecution of cases. Because before, when I was a social worker, there used to have that. No, we have to use that. We used to have that, but now it's gone. And I think the prosecutors and other members of the judiciary should be trained on gender and child-friendly trial or investigation. Because that's one thing that, I have handled so many cases, and some of the resolutions are full of rape and sexist myths. Okay. Second is for the psychosocial intervention. When the case is already in court, there are instances that the psychosocial intervention support is limited or sometimes gone. So the focus is already on the legal aspect. But I think these two should work hand in hand, or these two should be present. So while the child is undergoing the legal battle, there should be a psychosocial support intervention for that particular child. And I think those two are missing now. So those are my recommendations, to return the old practices that we have
Thank you,
before.
Attorney Mylene. Yes, Gino?
Good afternoon, I think. I'm Gino Coral from ECPAT Philippines. Two quick recommendations, siguro. One of which is the strengthening of reporting mechanisms for taking down content. I think it was recommended also by the child survivor a while ago. So there are survivors who would be victims of of CSAM or OSAEC, but they would rather not be brought to the legal judicial processes, but rather they would be more comfortable or more interested in taking down the contents that is proliferating online. So that's number one. Number two is the victim identification. So there's a very high, the study shows that the Philippines has a very high prevalence of OSAEC, but interestingly, there's very low number of children being identified who are victims of OSAEC. Around 30% tell their stories, but only to those close to them, their friends, their teachers, etc. But only around 1% to 4% go to the proper reporting channel. So we're missing a lot of children. So I think I would emphasize the recommendation from Pastor Jackson to really strengthen the role of the faith community in establishing child protective space in the churches, in the church communities through child protection system, child protection policies, etc. That would help identify more children who might be victims of OSAEC, but not really interested to undergo legal judicial processes. Thank you. We also, the value of youth in peer-to-peer approach in identifying peers or children who are victims of abuse and exploitation.
Yes. We have another one from Ms. Chi for World Vision. Yes?
Yes, this is very short. Above all, let us all be reminded to engage our children on the process of doing these things. for the churches, for the faith-based organization to provide meaningful participation for all children. We're lucky in World Vision that we have active engagement in faith-based organization through our spiritual nurture program for children. But above all things, let us do not forget to provide meaningful participation to our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. I think there were a lot of insightful sharing, especially on the best practices and recommendations that we will have. Moving forward, we will consolidate all the recommendations. I've listed actually 10, but focusing on, I think most important, the statement that we can release, for the tech companies from the G20 Interfaith Summit. Statements about strengthening curriculum on children, especially for public schools, and reporting mechanisms, and so much more actually. But we end the session. Thank you so much for your time. We extended our meeting because this is a rich discussion. Thank you for contributing.